Hello, teachers. Welcome to the reading club. Actually, it should be done last week, but because of the technical error, we didn't have a, reading club section for that. So instead, I will start talking to you about some articles related to teaching pronunciation and also teaching reading and listening skill. Okay, now let's get started. Uh, I think everybody might be very busy today, right? Because of the Christmas day. You might be very busy with your work, and also you might have you might be spending your time with your family or things like that. Anyway, if you don't have a chance to watch this one now, you can watch it back later because I'm not going to delete it back. So now let's start with the first one. The first one is about teaching pronunciation. Actually, now what we are reading is the practice of English language teaching. From that book, we are going to focus on 3 different units. The first one is called teaching pronunciation. Second one is how we are going to teach listening and how we are going to teach reading. So 3 different units are going to be discussed here. Okay, so now let's start with the first one. The very first one is, which one are you going to focus first? Fluency or accuracy? Let's think about it. So actually, pronunciation, everybody knows about that. If we really want to focus on pronunciation, we have to focus on accuracy, right? Everybody agree with that one. But one thing we have to consider is, which one should we do first? Fluency-based pronunciation activity first or accuracy-based pronunciation activity first? Let's start thinking about it. Now let's move to another slide. Okay, so let's start looking at fluency-based activity. So fluency-based activity is like listening to authentic text. Sometimes, if we are quite focusing on individual words or individual sounds, the students might get bored. So not to happen like that, we better start focusing on authentic text. Authentic text is like, for example, nowadays, what is happening? Like COVID-19 period, right? At that time, if we want our students to improve their listening, to improve their pronunciation, what we can try is like we can search on Google or YouTube about COVID-19 news, and then let the students listen to that one. And the students will get exposure automatically, and they are going to imitate some pronunciation from other speakers, and they can learn something better. So this is also kind of authentic. Authentic is not a ready-made thing. Like, for example, now we are using different types of coursebook, right? For different types of coursebook, you can also rely on, different types of portion. For example, if your unit 1 is about occupation, at that time, the students, they have to do listening based on that one. Doctor, engineer, plumber, blah, 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 like that. So different sort of areas. Actually, it's limited according to the students' needs and students' level. But authentic texts are not like that. It's based on the real world event. It's based on what is happening in the world. So what we can try is like, we can ask our students to listen to the authentic text. I really like this way because, the students, they don't, they don't really like listening to boring lessons and listening to the, some audios from the already ready-made ones. So at that time, it's better to let them expose to authentic text. And another way is listening to personal interest. For example, if you're a kind of person who really like to collect different types of lottery tickets or different types of home decoration, if you are eager to listen to that one, let your students listen to those things. In this way, they will get interested in what they are listening, and then they can imitate some of the pronunciations back. I think that's also fine because we cannot choose each and everything for them, right? At that time, maybe as an assignment, we can give them like, okay, today from YouTube, you can find a useful thing about your personal interest. Maybe for me, if I'm interested, I'm a kind of food lover. So if somebody asks me to do that one, I will try different types of foods around the world. And then I will try to listen to Japanese cuisine or Korean cuisine. And then I will try to imitate their pronunciation back. How are they going to pronounce for each of the food or things like that? But if you're a kind of person who are really interested in collecting coins, actually most of the people are quite interested in collecting coins. So if you're a kind of that person, you can also ask your students to do like that. And then after they have listened, they have to do presentation back. That is also kind of, improving activity, fluency-based pronunciation activity. And another one is subject-related tasks. We have already known about that, right? If your students are, studying science or physics, at that time, you can ask them to listen to some of the subject areas about those subjects. In this way, they can also get to improve their pronunciation very well. And then listening and responding to people. Yeah, that's also very nice. If you have like friends who are native speakers, let them talk to let them talk to them with your students. In this way, your students will be will have like enough confidence level, and then they were trying to get some exposure back. So it's also nice. And the last one is called listening to tech talk or podcasts. Yeah, those are really amazing. Depending on your personal interest, you can choose whatever you want. For example, if you are really interested in listening to personal development tech talk, you can listen. At the same time, you will improve their pronunciation, and also you can get a sort of knowledge on that area. So I think these are really fine, especially for fluency-based pronunciation activities. But sometimes, if we are focusing just for fluency, it's not enough, right? So we better focus on accuracy as well. So now let's move to another one. Please wait. If you are watching my live, after that, I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? Because I have some questions with you and we can start doing that one after that. Sorry, the connection is not quite good. I can move on. Okay, so now let's move to another one. Another one is called accuracy-based practice. So accuracy-based pronunciation practice are like identifying individual sounds and words. I think you are quite familiar with that one. For example, you can show the phonemic chart in the classroom, and then you can ask your students to pronounce every single phoneme. For example, how are we going to pronounce this one? Pa, ba, ta, da. Individual sound. You can teach them like this. In this way, their pronunciation will be correct. But for that one, instead of teaching in a normal way, you can also try some different activities from the book. Actually, in that the practice of the language teaching book, at that time, when you're reading this one, you can get to know about some pronunciation practice together with different types of interesting activities. So you can also learn about that. And the second point is, if we are focusing on pronunciation, don't forget stress and intonation. I always tell my students like, okay, don't die in English. Okay, how can we die in English? Let's think about it. Do you know ECG? ECG. You know that, right? In ECG, if it is happening like that, what can happen? In a straight line, if it is happening in a straight line, what can happen to us? We can dine, right? So that's why don't dine in English. When you are teaching back your students as well, ask them to pronounce the words with the stress and intonation. In ECG, if the line is like this way, if it is going like that, you can stay alive, right? Like that. When we are teaching English as well, we should have like rising intonation, falling intonation, rising intonation, falling intonation. Yes, teacher 3, you are correct. We can dine. That's why don't dine in English. So don't dine in your teaching period as well. When we are teaching as well, if we are not moving at all and we are teaching with the same pace all the time, at that time we can dine in teaching. For example, you start presenting some of the language items, and then you ask your students to do some practice by sitting down and doing it like this. So it's a kind of very boring one. Instead of starting like that, you can ask your students, okay, sometimes they can write, but sometimes they should have like physical movement activity. Sometimes they should have like thinking activity. In this way, their movement or the lesson pace will be like up and down, up and down, up and down. So ECG is very important. English and also teaching in both area, we shouldn't dine, right? So it's very important to know that. And also another one is putting emphasis on kinetic speech. So kinetic speech is also very important to teach, especially when we are teaching English, instead of teaching like word by word individually, we should ask them to say and to have a link each other. For example, get up Ali, get up Ali. No way, we have to ask the students like, hey, if the word ends with consonant, And another word start with vowel. We have to make a link together, not get up early, get up early, get up early. Like that, we can also train them to be able to pronounce according to the Canada speech, according to the stress, intonation, everything. So we can try it in many different areas if we are focusing on accuracy. And the last one is relating all paralinguistic phonological features. Paralinguistic features like stress, intonation, Canada speech, every area, we have to train them. But this is the area that we have to focus, especially when we are teaching pronunciation. But one thing you shouldn't forget is like if we go with the normal way, the students can feel bored. There are so many different types of activities and games that are available in the practice of English language teaching book. So if you really want to know about that, you can go and refer to that page. And there are so many activities you can find there. Okay, this is about teaching pronunciation. Now let's move to teaching soft skills a little bit. Now let's start thinking about this one. So in English, there are altogether 4 skills, right? Now it's time for me to ask you the questions. So what are receptive skills? Can you just write in your comment? What are receptive skills? I will be waiting for you. If you're watching my live, you can start writing. What are receptive skills? What are receptive skills? And also at the same time, I want you to think about the productive skills. How many types of productive skills have you ever seen? What are they? Reading and listening. Teacher Inyaki. Teacher Sia Nailin Jo. Yes, you're correct. Reading and listening. Receptive skills. What about for productive skills? What are productive skills? There are only 2 types of productive skills, right? If you know that, you can type in your comment. Yeah, actually, they are altogether 4 types of skills, right? Yes, teacher Suimo, you are correct. Reading and listening. Teacher Pang Yi, you are correct. Reading and listening. Okay, for productive skills, we have to produce from our mouth, especially speaking. Speaking also, right? After we have listened to something, we have to speak it out aloud. So it's like producing something from our mouth. It's a kind of productive skill. And also writing. After we have done like reading for several times, we are able to write. That's why writing is a kind of productive skill. Thank you, teacher Suimo, teacher Imya Kim, teacher Pang Ik Sianang. Thank you, teachers. So, okay, so for each of the skill, we have like different types of soft skills related teaching framework. If we are going teaching like reading, how are we going to teach? There are also different types of steps. Actually, in that book, they didn't mention different types of steps a lot. What they have mentioned is like different types of strategies that we can apply back in real teaching. So actually, I don't want to focus on the activity because we have like different types of activity books. And if you really want to read it, you can find and read it on your own. I will be focusing on framework. So if you know the framework, you can substitute any, any interesting activity on your own way. Now let's get started. Thank you, teacher Tu Seang. Okay, so now let's start looking at different types of soft skills. Actually, they are altogether 4 types of soft skills. If we are going to teach receptive skills, listening and reading, they are altogether 4 steps. The first one is called skimming. Skimming. Skimming is like we just want to get a general idea of something. Normally, we start teaching to our students in most of the traditional school. How they usually start is like they try to take out some unfamiliar words or unknown words, and then they teach the meaning of the students. The students have to do lots of drilling. For example, eat an apple, like lots of drilling, they have to do it. And they also have to learn about different types of grammar structure. Only after that, the students are allowed to start doing reading. But in actual practice, we shouldn't be doing like that. We can start with a skimming section. Skimming section is like we ask our students to read that one just to get a general understanding, not for lexical development or not for vocabulary enrichment program, just for understanding purpose only. But when we are doing skimming, one thing we have to notice is like the students must get the general information as quick as possible. It shouldn't be taking too long. Maybe your paragraph may be like 300 words. So for that one, if you want your students to get like general idea, you should give only 2 or 3 minutes. So within 2 or 3 minutes, they have to read it quickly, read the beginning, middle a little bit, and they have to find the ending. And then they may know what it is about. So it's really important to know about the general information of the paragraph. Yeah, listening also, you can also do the same practice as reading. For example, for listening, how you can try is like, you can ask your students to listen to a song. They listen to a song. So actually there might be some unfamiliar patterns they might not know, but it doesn't matter. What we want to focus is like, after they have listened to that one, they have to make a choice. What is it about? Is the song about friendship? Is it about an animal? Is it about Christmas? They have to know about the general information. If they know about the general information, okay, they passed. So this is the way that we are going to train with the first one. The first step is about skimming. And the second step is like scanning activity. Scanning is like, we want our students to find specific information about something. For example, you want your students to read, they do skimming activity. Now they have finished, right? Now it's time to test their understanding about the passage. So the question could be starting with WH and also how much, how many, and so many items. But it should, how to say, figure out something specifically. For example, when was Edison born? The question starts with when, right? If the question starts with one, the students know that automatically. Oh, we have to find the information about the time. They know about it and they look at it and then they scan the information about the time and then they say you the answer back. So for listening as well, it's like that. Mostly about WH question and how question. It's asking your students about specific information on something. This is we call scanning. Sometimes scanning can be done with different types of gap filling activity. Maybe it's a kind of animal which can make meow meow sound, and then you give the first letter C. The students go and find the information at the passage on their own. Oh yeah, I see camel. I see cat, like that. They find the information on their own. So this is the second step. Now let's move to the third step. Only at the third stage, we start teaching them. So in third stage, we start explaining. But we are not taking the leading role all the time. We ask our students, okay, how do you think about this paragraph? Oh, okay, what happened next? We ask them questions about them. But at that time, if they don't know some meanings, only at that time you start explaining. Oh, chauffeur is a kind of person who work at the embassy, especially he is a kind of private doctor for a private driver for embassy or something like that. You start explaining like that, not in skimming stage and scanning stage, only at the detail stage. You start explaining every single point in detail. And but explaining in detail does not mean you're trying to translate every single word. Like, once upon a time, there was a king. Once the Kalonga, upon a time. Not like that. You just, how do they say it generally, and then ask some questions to your students. If they don't know it, if they ask you back, you start explaining a little bit. Not every single thing, not every single one. So the last stage, it's very important because skimming, scanning, and detail, those are we call passive reading skills. Passive reading skills, not active reading skills yet. So for passive reading skills, we are training them with skimming, scanning, detail, 3 different steps. Now we are going to move to active reading stage. If we really want them to move to active reading or active listening stage, we can ask them to inferencing. Inferencing is like they have to make inference. They have to choose their own opinion. They have to tell their opinion on their own. For example, if you're starting with a listening activity, let's think about it. How can we do it? Let's choose a very famous song called My Heart Will Go On. Titanic song, right? You ask your students to listen to that one. They do like skimming, scanning, detail activities. All the activities have finished. And then finally, you ask the students, okay, why do you think the song composer wrote this song? Why do you think the song composer wrote this song? At that time, the students, they have to think on their own. they can how to say they can get the idea from the listening lyrics, or they can get any ideas from it. They have to think about it on their own. And some students might say, oh, maybe that song composer might have a heartbreaking event in his life, that's why he composed this song. And some students, they might say like, oh, that composer might be very romantic one, that's why he usually try to write about the love song. Like that, we can also think about it. If it is for reading, for example, if it is about Helen Keller, how can you make inferencing questions to your students? We can try it, right? For example, if you were in the place of Cinderella, or if you were in the place of Helen Keller, how would you feel? You can see anything, and you can talk anything. So at that time, how are you going to do it? We can ask them to think about it. So only inferencing stage can develop their critical thinking skill, not about the other skills yet. This is we call sub skills. That's why, one thing I want you to get notice is like, whenever you describe reading skills, do not forget S. How to teach reading skills. Because in skill, we have like different types of sub skills, right? Skimming, scanning, detail, inferencing. That's why do not drop S. Do not drop S all the time. It's very important. Listening also, right? Listening has different types of strategy: skimming, scanning, detail, inferencing. Whenever you post something on Facebook, or whenever you post about that one as an article, don't forget S. How to teach listening skills. How to teach listening skills. If you put S, it's correct. If you don't put S, you're aiming towards only one type of sub-skill, not all the sub-skills yet. So this is the one that we need to get noticed. I think now it's my turn to ask you back. Are you ready for the question? If you're ready to answer, can you just write yes in comment? If you're ready, just write yes in comment. I'm waiting for you. Are you ready? Okay, so now I have given you like 4 different types of activity, and I want you to look at this one first. Okay, the first one. Okay, thank you, Sienna. You're ready, right? I think the other people also, you might get ready with that one. So when you're answering back, for example, if I say like, okay, please answer only number 1. If I say like that, please answer for only number 1. Skimming, scanning, detail, inferencing. Which one is correct? You have to make judgment on your own. Thank you, Sia Ao9, teacher Suimo, teacher Tuza, teacher Pang. So now I will give you time to think about it. The first one is like, listen to the song and raise your hand when you hear the words with P sound. Is it skimming, scanning, detail, or inferencing? Which one is correct? Please answer only for number 1. I will be waiting for your answer. What type of activity is it? Only for number 1, okay? Actually, I didn't write number 1, but I have just read my one to you. Can you answer it back? Okay, teacher Suimo, skimming, maybe. What about the other people? Can you answer the question? Hello. Only for number 1, okay? Let me count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then time's up, and then I will start telling you the answer for that. 5, 4. See my answer scanning. Teacher Ibrasu detail. Teacher Imyakin detail. Teacher Mimi turn detail. Teacher Pan is scanning. Okay. Please read the instruction again. Listen to the song. The students, they have to listen to the song, and then they have to raise their hand whenever they heard about the words with P sound. What type of listening is it? 2, 1.5, 1. Okay, actually, I didn't put anything in here yet. This is not related to, how to say, this is not related to skimming, scanning, detail, or inferencing yet. This is another topic. I'm just testing you because in that book, it has already mentioned, right? Intensive listening. The correct answer is intensive listening. Intensive listening is like you are trying to focus on a group of items and one category. In here, the words are not limited, right? So whenever the students heard about pineapple, pear, peacock, popcorn, at that time, they just have to stand up and then not stand up, they just have to raise their hand whenever they heard about those things, right? So this is about intensive listening. I'm just teasing you. Yeah, intensive. If it is for scanning, the question will be like, raise your hand when you hear the words, with uh, words for pineapple. At that time, whenever the student heard about pineapple, they have to just raise their hand. Okay, you are correct. Thank you. Now it's time to move another one. Another one is like popcorn reading and presentation. Popcorn reading and presentation. So what type of reading strategy is it? Skimming, scanning, detail, inferencing. Which one is it? Let's answer. If you don't know popcorn reading, you can ask me in comment back. If you know, I won't explain you back. It's okay. Let me count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 like before. 5. Teacher April skimming. CR9 skimming. CR9 win detail. 2. Teacher Mimi turn scanning. Teacher Từ Giám Nhớ skimming. So do you know the meaning of popcorn reading? Popcorn reading? If you know, can you answer yes? If you don't know, I will explain you back. Popcorn reading. Okay, time's up. So popcorn reading, I think most of you will be quite familiar with it. Popcorn reading is like eating a popcorn, pop, 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 eating popcorn. So you ask the students to read randomly, right? This is we call popcorn reading technique. Popcorn reading and presentation. Actually, this is the correct answer is skimming. If you answer skimming, it's correct. Skimming. Oh, Sienna, you don't know? Okay. So I will explain you back. Popcorn reading is like, for example, how does the popcorn make the song? Pop, 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 or pop, 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 pop. Actually, there is a pause in the middle, right? Pop, 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 pop. So this is we call popcorn reading. Popcorn reading is like you ask your students to read a paragraph. At the time, the paragraph is like, once upon a time, there was a king. He had a lovely daughter. She fell in love with a poor guy and he didn't agree with that situation. Like this one, a very long paragraph. At that time, you ask the students to read. For example, if I'm the student, I start reading like, once upon a time, I haven't finished yet, but my teacher asked me to make a pause, and then he chose another one who is very far from me. At that time, that student has to continue my sentence. There was a king, and then she finished. The teacher chose another one who is very far from her, and then that student has to continue the sentence. He had a lovely daughter, like that. Normally, if we ask our students to read something, do they pay attention to you? No way, right? They are not paying attention to you. They just want to focus on the one who is beside them. Oh, her turn finished, my turn will come. They usually think about that. So they don't really care what you're doing, or they don't really care what they are going to read. Normally, they try to do like that. So not to happen like that, we can practice with popcorn reading technique. One person says something, and then another person has to continue it. But that person sentence is like finished or not, it doesn't matter. Another one has to continue her one. This is we call popcorn reading technique. Normally at the beginning stage of reading, some teachers usually try to do this activity. especially for active reading strategy and to check their pronunciation. So the correct answer in here is skimming. Skimming must be correct. The students, they do the popcorn reading activity. And finally, as much as they understand, they have to start doing their presentation. So it's like they are not reading only, they have to understand it at the same time. So we are testing two different strategies in the same way. The first one is like pronunciation, and another one is a kind of understanding strategy. So it's a kind of testing both strategy. Now, if you answer skimming, your answer is correct. Yeah, Siana, you are correct. Read generally. Read generally is correct. Okay, so now my question is jigsaw reading. If you don't know jigsaw reading, you can listen to my instruction fast, and then you can start answering the question. Jigsaw reading is like, normally you give a very long passage to your student, but it can make them very bored. So not to happen like that, we can cut the paragraph into pieces, slips of paper, paragraph by paragraph. After that one finish, you mix everything up, and then you go and give to individual group. So those people, they start trying to rearrange them back. This is we call jigsaw reading activity. Now my question is jigsaw reading activity for skimming, scanning, detail, inferencing? Which one is correct? Can you answer in the comments? I will count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 like before. 5. Skimming, teacher April. Shreya 9, detail. Teacher Sui Moore. Skimming. 3. Teacher Mimi Chon, detail. Shreya out 9 when scanning. Teacher Duzan skimming. 2. 2. 1.5. 1. Time's up. Yeah, jigsaw reading strategy. It's a really, yeah, correct, teacher. Jigsaw reading strategy. It's a kind of fun activity for most students. So normally we try to do it at the beginning of the teaching strategy, at the beginning of our teaching section. For example, we start giving them like different types of slips of paper. Actually, they don't even know about the meaning of each word, and they don't really have to find, they don't have the meaningful, purpose for finding that one. Do they have to find about the time, reason, or any other things? They don't have any specific purpose. What they have to do is they have to rearrange them back to get the whole piece of the reading. So to be able to do that one, they need to understand generally, right? If they understand something generally, they can be correct. That's why CR9 is not intensive. Teacher Imyake, you choose both. Actually, the correct answer in here is skimming only. Skimming, general idea. To get a general idea, you ask your students to do like that. Because sometimes, if we ask them to read the whole paragraph, they don't get interested in that. They feel really bored. They don't really want to do it. So instead of doing like that one, we can ask them to do as an activity by giving them like different pieces of information, and then they have to read it generally, and then they put it back on their own. So it's for skimming activity. Yeah, most of you are correct. Some of you are wrong. Sorry for that. Now let's move to another one, characterization. So characterization is like we try to feel like the character. For example, you ask your students to read about something. At that time, they read about the paragraph in general. Maybe it's about, suppose I like Cinderella's story a lot, so let me choose Cinderella's story again. You ask your students to read Cinderella's story, and then they try to read everything. After they have read all the things, and after they have done all exercises, you ask them to feel like the real character. So if you were Cinderella, how would you revenge your two stepsisters? We ask our students to think like that. And then they think about it, and then they talk to each other back. Oh, if I were Cinderella, I would kick the two daughters with my feet and blah, 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 something like that. They just need to buzz up their own feelings. They just have to talk about their own feelings. So In this way, we can go on the activity, maybe like 10 minutes or 15 minutes activity. After they have done, they can also present their ideas back. So characterization, is it for skimming, scanning, detail, or inferencing? Let's answer back. I will be waiting for your answer. Sienna, you answer like that, right? If you don't get specific information, we can arrange. But the information don't need to be read specifically. If we know generally, we can do jigsaw activity. Yes, yeah, our knife. Fighting from mistake, we are going to learn together. Okay, so I think you're answering for characterization now, right? Teacher April answer for both questions. Reading for mood, inferring attitude. Teacher Sui Moon, inferring attitude. Sia online with detail. Characterization. I will give you the hint for that. It's not related to passive reading strategy. It's related to active reading strategy. Active reading strategy. So which one could it be? Oh, so yeah, again, characterization. Okay, let me explain you back. This time I will change my character again, not Cinderella anymore. I will change my character like Pandan. Okay, let's think about Pandan. So Pandan story, right? Pandan move cartoons. We ask our students to watch Pandan cartoon. At the time, they watch and they like how he move and they like the way he act. After they have watched the movie about Ben 10, you ask your student, hey, if you were Ben 10, how would you fight back your enemy? At the time, the students in pairs, they talk to each other. Oh, I would fight back my enemy with my fist or things like that. They just give their own opinion after that, right? Characterization is like we try to feel like that character and give our own opinion on it. That's why if you answer inferencing, it's correct. Inferencing is like we ask our students to read something. After they have read that one, they have to give their own opinion on it. This is we call inferencing. Sometimes we call it like mood activity. Listening for mood activity, reading for mood activity, inferring attitude activity, or inferencing. We can say it in many different ways we want. Okay, I think only some of you are correct here. Now let's move to another one. This is the last activity that we are going to do. This one. Okay, let's think about it. Listen and do activity. Yeah, listen and do activities. Think about listen and do activities. What types of listen and do activities do you know? If you know the name of the activities, you can just mention in comment. Listen and do activity. Listen and do activities. I will give you one example. Simon said game activity, right? Normally it's very popular, especially in young learners. We usually start teaching them like classroom language. At the time, we ask our students to do like, okay, Simon said, touch your head. At the time, the students, they have to touch their head. Touch your head. If you say touch your head only, they don't have to touch their head. Simon said, touch your cheek. Touch your cheek. At the time, they have to touch it, right? Listen and do activities. So if the activity goes on like that, what type of reading sub skill or not reading, what type of listening sub skills are we going to train our students? Is it for skimming, scanning, detail, or inferencing? Which one is correct? Yeah, teacher Smina, you're correct. Simon Sage, teacher April, correct. Now let's think about the strategy. What type of strategy would it be? Skimming, scanning, detail, inferencing. Listen and do activities. I'll be waiting for you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. Okay, so now let me check your answer back. CR9 answer scanning, teacher April detail, teacher Pang E run and test, teacher Duza detail. Okay, actually the correct answer in here is detail, right? Detail, because only when the students get all the information, they can start doing it. So detail, the students don't know which one they have to listen, which one they have to read. They don't know everything in detail. So at that time, they have to listen to the teacher's instruction in detail. Then they are going to start doing it. So this is we call detail activity. If you answer detail is correct, listen and do activity is for detail, not for skimming or scanning activity yet. Okay, congratulations to some of you. Now let's move to another one. Another one is like this one. Read a paragraph quickly and give the title of it. You read a paragraph very quickly and then you give the title of it. What type of reading strategy is it? Is it for skimming, scanning, detail, or inference? Let's answer in the comments. I will count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's try to answer it back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. Okay, time's up. Let me check your answer back. Skimming, scanning, skimming, 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 skimming. Okay, according to the vote, the answer skimming is correct. Congratulations, teachers, because you asked the students to read a paragraph very quickly, right? Actually, in reading and listening, we have like 4 types of strategies: skimming, scanning, detail, and inferencing. But out of all of those things, only for skimming activity, the students need to read something very quickly. The other activity, they have to take time to read the, how to say, to get the information, to get the right information. But for skimming, they have to read it quickly, and if they understand it back, they can just give the title of it on their own way. So if you answer skimming, you're correct. Congratulations. Now let's move to the second last one. The second last one is like teacher explain some lexical resources. 1, teaching reading. What type of reading strategy is it? Teacher explain some lexical resources. 1, teaching reading. Is it for skimming, scanning, detail, or inferencing? Which one is correct? I will count 5 to 1 again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. I think this time most of your answers are quite similar, right? Not quite similar, or almost all of the same. But somebody has made a spelling mistake. You can check it back. Okay, actually the correct answer is detail. You are correct. You explain back, right? They are all together 4 steps. Only in the 3rd step, you start explaining about some lexical resources. About some vocabulary items and grammar items to your students. You explain everything in detail. You are correct. If you answer reading for detail or detailed information, you are correct. Now let's do the last one. The last one is like listen and match activities. Listen and match activities. Is it for skimming, scanning, detail, or attitude? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5, 1. Okay, I think it's also a kind of listen and do activities, right? I changed the word a little bit and I make it like more specific one. Here we have like some variations in your answer. I have found that scanning, detail, attitude, they have different types of area. Listen and match. Listen and match. For example, you show a clock, maybe like 3 o'clock to your student, and then beside the figure, you give them some of the how to say text, like he usually trying to get up at 7 because he wants to have a big breakfast, blah blah blah, things like that. At the time, the students they have to listen to the instruction, and then they just have to do matching with the time and the script together, time and script, time and script. At that time, they have to do like listen and do activities, right? The students don't really know what they have to do, what they have to listen for. So at that time, they really have to focus on everything. That's why if you answer listening for detail, you are correct. Some people change the answer again and again. If you answer detail, you are correct. Okay, that's all about for today. Actually, today we are focusing 3 different areas. The first area is called pronunciation, teaching pronunciation. So for that one, if we have to tell you back, whenever you teach, or whenever you train pronunciation to your students, make sure you are, how to say, you are not trying to focus on accuracy only. Maybe when they were young, you might have to focus on accuracy. But if you're doing focus on accuracy a lot, the students can feel bored and they cannot get their progress immediately. So if you want your students to improve their pronunciation with the, how to say, faster rate, what you can try is like, you can let them improve their pronunciation by doing some fluency-based pronunciation activities like listening to tech talk or listening to podcasts or things like that. Even for the young learners, we have like different types of resources available online. So you can search on your own and then let the students listen to that one. In this way, they will get like a sort of exposure, even though we're not focusing on it. At the same time, you can also try to make balance between fluency-based pronunciation activities and accuracy-based pronunciation activities. For pronunciation, you can also let them try to find out the information about different types of phoneme. Is it p sound or b sound, or n sound? Which sounds are they? And then you can also try to focus on intonation, stress, and different types of paralinguistic features. In this way, your students can improve in both sections, fluency and accuracy. So this is the first thing we discussed at the previous section. And second one is I just combine 2 different types of units. The first one is teaching reading and second one is teaching listening. Actually, both of them are like receptive skills. So when you're training your students, make sure you are trying to use the same framework because both of them are, how to say, both of them have the same framework. Like we start with the skimming section. Skimming is like gist. Maybe firstly, they have to listen or they have to read to get the general information. After they have got the general information, what we are going to do? Scanning, right? Scanning is like after they have known something, they need to find out the right information. Where does it happen? Why did it happen? WH question and how question. They have to focus on that. So this is about second one. And the third one is about detailed information. Detailed information only in that stage, you can start teaching them about some lexical items, some vocabulary items. You can train them. If they don't know something, you can ask them, okay, so what does it mean? You just need to explain it in a very specific way. This is we call detailed strategy. Actually, 3 of them are like passive reading or passive listening skills. So this is very important. Passive listening skills and passive reading skills are also very important because it shows their understanding power. It shows their, how to say, ability, especially for our input section. But finally, don't forget our output section. If we have like input, we also should have time for output section as well. Output section is like we just have to focus on their productivity a lot. So the last point is like inferencing. For example, for inferencing section, after they have read something, they have to be feeling like the real character, or they have to talk about their own opinion based on the listening or based on reading. In this way, they can have like a little bit engagement in their reading or in their listening. So do not forget these 4 points. And also, I have reminded you since the beginning, whenever you ask your students to, how to say, to write or to advertise a, how to say, to advertise a course, at the time, don't write reading skill only. Reading has different types of specific skills. So you better introduce like reading skills with S, listening skills with S. We are not training only one type of strategy. We are training them like different types of sub-skill strategy. So do not drop your S whenever you advertise about your course or whenever you train your students about that one. It's very important. Um, okay, Sienna, you're asking me, right? Is it the same detailed and intensive? No, actually not the same. It's totally different. Intensive listening or intensive reading is like we aim towards based on one thing, one criteria. For example, you give a paragraph to your student, and then you ask your students to underline all types of verb ending in ed. At that time, the students, they read it, and then they start underline all the verb ending in ed. They underline it, underline it, underline it. This is what we call intensive reading strategy. Based on one category, based on one criteria, the students have to find the right information on their own. Scanning is not like that. Scanning is like you give a paragraph to your student and then ask them to find, okay, find the word W-E-N-T, went. How many times do you find that word in that paragraph? At that time, the students have to find the word only about W-E-N-T. They start finding went one time, 2 times, 3 times. They are going to find the information like that. This is we call scanning. Scanning is like we know exactly what we ask them to do. For intensive, it's not like that. It's under one category we ask them to find. For example, your paragraph may be related to different types of fruit. For example, the apple is red, but the orange is orange. Out of them, I like banana most, which is yellow color. At that time, there are different types of fruit in that paragraph, right? You ask your students to find, okay, circle all types of fruit in that video, in that paragraph. At that time, the students trying to circle all sort of fruit. So words are not the same, right? Sometimes they can be apple, banana, avocado, grapes. There are different types of things. This is we call intensive reading. Intensive is like based on and one category. Scanning is like based on only one word. So scanning is a little bit narrower than intensive. Detail is not like that. So yeah, detail is like we ask them every single point in detail happening in the story or happening in the listening section. So maybe it's related to how to say language area as well, not about understanding only. If they don't know something, we explain them back. And for some specific work, if we want them to know about it, we start explaining them little by little. This is we call detail stage. So actually, if you're interested in that one, you can also find the activities from the Practice of English Language Teaching book. In that book, there are different types of activities available. I think over 8 activities. So for each activity, you can try to think about it. Look at the step. Oh yeah, this is for skimming. Ah, this is for scanning. This is for detail. You can try to realize like that. So match the theory and activities together. Don't forget that it's very important. Sometimes we just read the theory and we can match the activities and the theory together. Okay, so thank you so much for joining my live section today, and thank you for your participation as well. See you on Saturday. Thank you, teachers.